Buckle up, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into the world of astronomy.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at the lives and discoveries of three giants in the field.
Galileo
Tycho Brahe.
and Johannes Kepler.
And you know what's interesting? Our main source for this deep dive is a 19th century book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called The Martyrs of Science.
Martyrs of Science.
Yeah.
It's a bit dramatic, isn't it?
It is a bit dramatic for modern sensibilities, you
Yeah.
know, where science is so highly valued. But back then,
Right.
scientific discoveries often clashed with religious dogma.
So these astronomers were kind of like
Yeah,
rebels.
absolutely. They were challenging the established order, risking their reputations, and sometimes even their freedom.
So we're talking Galileo facing the Inquisition,
Exactly.
Tycho with his pet psychic dwarf,
That's a story for later.
and Kepler struggling to make ends meet despite his groundbreaking work.
Their stories are full of intrigue and drama.
So let's start with Galileo. This guy was questioning everything, even as a teenager.
Oh, yeah. He was challenging the accepted Aristotelian views, even as a student.
What a rebel.
He had this independent spirit
Right.
and a thirst for knowledge that really set him apart.
Yeah, and he got a lecturing position at Pisa at just 18.
He did, but the salary was a pittance, 60 crowns.
Wow, so he wasn't in it for the money.
Not at all. He was driven by a passion for understanding the universe.
And then comes the telescope.
Oh, yes, the telescope.
Galileo heard about this Dutch invention that could magnify distant objects.
And what?
He built his own within 24 hours.
I know, isn't that incredible?
That's insane.
He was a brilliant innovator and experimenter, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible.
And his telescope wasn't just a copy. It was even better magnified over 30 times.
Exactly.
So he points this new telescope at the night sky, and what does he see?
Well, he makes a number of groundbreaking observations,
Oh,
like
wow.
mountains on the moon.
No way.
Yeah, he was the first person to observe these lunar features, shattering the idea that celestial bodies were perfect, smooth spheres.
So that was a big deal.
Huge. It challenged centuries of established thought.
And he didn't stop there,
No, he didn't. He also observed the phases of Venus,
which proved.
which provided further evidence for the heliocentric model, the idea that the planets revolve around the sun, not the Earth.
And then there were Jupiter's moons.
Ah, yes, his most famous discovery.
4 celestial bodies orbiting Jupiter.
Exactly,
Yeah.
demonstrating that not everything in the heavens revolved around the Earth.
Must have really shaken things up.
It did. It was a major blow to the geocentric model and a key piece of evidence supporting the Copernican view of the solar system.
But you know there's always some controversy, isn't there?
Well, there's always someone claiming they saw it first, right?
Right. Exactly like Simon Mayer.
Simon Mayer claimed he discovered the moons before Galileo.
And then there's...
And Thomas Harriot, he observed them but didn't publish his findings.
So it's all about who gets the credit.
It seems that way sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, Galileo, he was a bit of a showman, wasn't he?
He did have a flair for the dramatic.
Like when he announced his discoveries in the form of riddles.
Oh, yes, the enigmas.
Like with Saturn, he wrote.
Altissimum planetam tergeminam observavi.
What does that even mean?
It means, I have observed that the most remote planet is triple.
So cryptic.
He was referring to Saturn's rings, which, with his telescope, appeared as 3 distinct bodies.
Oh, so he didn't even really know what he was seeing.
Not at the time, but his observations sparked curiosity and further investigation.
It's amazing to think how these early observations paved the way for our understanding of the universe today.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of observation and the importance of constantly refining our understanding based on new evidence.
But these discoveries, especially those supporting the heliocentric model, well, they weren't exactly welcomed with open arms, were they?
No, especially not by the church.
Right, because his work challenged their whole worldview.
Exactly. It threatened their authority on matters of the cosmos.
So in 1611, Galileo travels to Rome
He did.
to show off his findings to cardinals, even the Pope himself.
He was trying to win over influential supporters and maybe reconcile his scientific views with religious doctrine.
But the opposition just kept growing, didn't it?
It did. A Dominican friar named Tommaso Caccini attacked him publicly, accusing him of heresy.
Wow, talk about a controversy.
It really highlights the clash between science and religion during that time.
So what did Galileo do?
He tried to defend himself, argued that his findings could be reconciled with scripture,
He even wrote a letter to the Grand Duchess of Tuscany.
trying to rally support for his cause.
But it wasn't enough, was it?
Unfortunately not. In 1616, he was summoned before the Inquisition.
Oh, boy.
They ordered him to abandon his views on the Earth's motion and forbade him from teaching them.
Talk about a setback.
It was a major blow for Galileo and a sign of the Church's growing power to suppress scientific ideas that challenged their worldview.
But even facing these restrictions, he continued to discuss his ideas privately.
We know this from a letter from Quarenghi to Cardinal d'Este.
He wasn't giving up.
No, he was a man who believed in the truth of his discoveries, even when those truths were deemed dangerous.
Galileo wasn't the only big name in astronomy at the time.
Oh, no, not at all.
There was also Tycho Brahe.
A fascinating character.
This guy was a Danish nobleman.
Yeah, practically royalty.
But a solar eclipse in 1560 changed everything for him.
It really did. Instead of law and politics, he became obsessed with the stars.
It's like destiny call.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't just stargazing, he was building his own astronomical instruments.
Oh, yeah, like this huge quadrant he built.
Showing his dedication.
Yeah, and ingenuity for sure.
But he was also a bit of a character, right?
Oh, yeah, he had this larger-than-life personality full of quirks.
Like what?
Well, for instance, did you know he lost part of his nose in a duel?
What?
Yeah, and wore a metal prosthetic.
Wow, that's a story.
It is.
Imagine this brilliant astronomer with a metal nose charting the stars.
Quite a picture.
So Tycho, he travels all over Europe, meets other astronomers, builds his reputation.
He does, and then he meets King Frederick II of Denmark.
And the king becomes his patron.
Exactly. Talk about a royal endorsement.
So the king gives him an island.
The island of Lynn.
And funds the construction of an observatory.
Uraniborg.
Uraniborg, what a name.
It was a marvel of its time, state-of-the-art instruments, a library, workshops, even a printing press.
It sounds incredible.
It was a scientific haven.
And it was there at Uraniborg that he makes these incredibly precise observations, particularly of Mars.
Yes, observations that would later prove crucial for Kepler's work.
But here's where it gets interesting.
What's that?
Tycho. He also dabbled in astrology and alchemy.
Well, you have to remember, back then, the lines between science, mysticism, and religion were pretty blurry.
Right, it was a different time.
Even brilliant minds like Tycho were influenced by the prevailing intellectual currents.
So he was this mix of science and mysticism.
And he was also deeply religious.
It's amazing how all these different ideas coexisted in his mind.
It really speaks to the complexity of human thought.
So in 1572, Tycho observes a new star in the sky, what we now know as a supernova.
A major discovery.
Because it challenged the idea that the heavens were unchanging.
Exactly. It shook the astronomical world.
This discovery adds to his fame.
Oh, yeah. And even leads to a visit from King James VI of Scotland.
The future King James I of England.
The same one.
Imagine being that king getting a personal tour of Uraniborg.
I'd be blown away.
But sadly, Tycho's good fortune didn't last.
What happened?
King Frederick II dies.
Oh.
Tycho faces opposition from the Danish nobility.
He loses his patron.
And is forced to leave Uraniborg.
No.
Yeah, he packs up his instruments and his family and ends up in Prague.
Under a new patron.
Emperor Rudolf II.
Exactly.
He becomes the imperial mathematician and gets a new castle for his observatory.
His reputation clearly preceded him,
Tycho dies in 1601.
leaving behind an incredible legacy.
Precise observations, the amazing Uraniborg Observatory.
And his role as a mentor to Johannes Kepler.
Our third astronomical giant.
It's hard to overstate Tycho's influence on Kepler.
Now Kepler, he's a fascinating guy.
He is indeed.
Initially, he wasn't even that interested in astronomy.
I know, right? Can you believe that?
But he had to study it for his profession.
It was required.
The irony.
It's like stumbling into your true calling by accident.
Exactly. His early work was all about searching for mathematical harmonies in the universe.
His Mysterium Cosmographicum.
He was obsessed with patterns and relationships.
Trying to find the hidden order in the cosmos.
Then Tycho dies, and Kepler inherits his massive collection of observations.
A treasure trove of data.
This changes everything for Kepler.
It does. It gives him the fuel for his groundbreaking discoveries.
But life wasn't easy for Kepler,
No, he struggled financially.
even as the imperial mathematician.
And his personal life was full of challenges, too.
Broken engagement,
It's a difficult marriage.
religious turmoil.
It's a reminder that even brilliant minds have their share of hardship.
In 1609, he publishes Astronomy and Nova.
A revolutionary work.
He unveils his first two laws of planetary motion.
Planets move in ellipses.
Not perfect circles.
And a line connecting a planet to the sun sweeps out equal areas in equal times.
Blowing everyone's minds.
It was a paradigm shift.
Then he comes up with his third law.
Relating a planet's distance from the sun to its orbital period.
This guy was on fire.
A true genius.
But he wasn't just an astronomer. He was also a pioneer in optics,
He explained how eyeglasses work.
which we all benefit from today.
Absolutely.
And he was a deeply spiritual person, too.
Oh, yeah.
In his book, Harmonices Mundi, he explores the idea of a universal harmony.
Seeing the cosmos as a reflection of God's divine order.
He even said he was stealing the golden vessels of the Egyptians to build a tabernacle for his god.
Beautiful imagery.
But his views, particularly the support for the Copernican system, well, they caused some problems with the church.
Understandably.
His book, Epitome of Copernican Astronomy, gets banned.
A classic example of the clash between science and religion.
Then he gets this invitation to come to England.
From Sir Henry Wotton.
Imagine if he had accepted.
It's a fascinating thought.
But he declined.
Maybe because of the English Civil War?
Or maybe just because he needed financial stability.
He had struggled with money his whole life.
And then on top of everything else, his own mother is accused of witchcraft.
Can you imagine?
He had to fight for her release while also trying to revolutionize astronomy.
It's remarkable how he managed to keep going.
Finally, he finds some peace in Sagan under the patronage of Duke Albert of Wallenstein.
A much-needed respite.
The Duke gives him an assistant, a printing press, and a professorship at the University of Rostock.
Sounds like a pretty good deal.
But tragically, in 1630, while traveling to collect his salary, he dies.
A sad end to a brilliant life.
But his epitaph captures his spirit perfectly.
What does it say?
I measure the heavens now, I measure the earth. I measure the heavens now, I measure the shadows. The mind was in the heavens, the body rests in the earth.
Beautiful and fitting.
It's kind of sad, isn't it?
What's that?
That even after all his achievements, Kepler died in poverty.
It is a reminder that financial reward doesn't always come with groundbreaking discoveries.
He left behind a wife and 7 children.
Imagine that.
And they inherited practically nothing.
It's a stark reminder that recognition and wealth don't always go hand in hand.
But his legacy lives on, right?
Absolutely.
His children carried on his name. His daughter Susanna even married one of his pupils.
Jacob Brahe.
And his son Louis became a doctor.
It's like they inherited his thirst for knowledge.
And of course, his scientific legacy is immeasurable.
Oh, absolutely.
His laws of planetary motion are still fundamental to astronomy.
They form the bedrock of our understanding of the solar system.
And get this, even though he died centuries before we landed on the moon,
Right.
he wrote a book, Imagining a Journey to the Moon,
The dream.
published after his death.
A true visionary.
So we've journeyed through the lives of these 3 astronomical giants.
Galileo, Tycho, and Kepler.
They challenged the status quo, faced setbacks and opposition, and changed the way we see the universe.
They were true pioneers driven by curiosity and a passion for knowledge.
It's incredible how much they achieved in a time when science was often met with suspicion.
It makes you appreciate how far we've come.
And the freedoms we have today to explore and question without fear.
It's a testament to their courage, their persistence.
And their unwavering belief in the power of observation and reason.
They paved the way for generations of scientists.
What can we learn from these pioneers?
I think they remind us that science is a human endeavor.
Full of triumphs and struggles, brilliance and eccentricity.
It's a journey of discovery fueled by passion and a desire to understand our place in the cosmos.
And progress isn't always easy.
No, there will be setbacks, controversies, even conflicts.
But the pursuit of truth, as Galileo believed, will ultimately prevail.
It always has.
What do you think these 3 would make of our current understanding of the universe?
I think they would be astonished.
Black holes.
Galaxies billions of light years away.
The Big Bang.
Concepts they could only dream of.
But I also think they'd be thrilled.
To see how their work laid the foundation for our modern understanding.
What new mysteries would they be eager to unravel with today's technology?
What new frontiers would they explore?
It's an exciting thought.
Isn't it?
Their journey may be over.
But ours is just beginning.
We stand on the shoulders of these giants,
Looking out at a universe full of wonder and mystery.
ready to make our own discoveries.
That's the beauty of science. It never ends.
It's a continuous process of discovery and refinement.
Driven by the same human spirit that ignited the passions of Galileo, Tycho, and Kepler.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yes.
we leave you with a final thought.
What's that?
What new astronomical discoveries await us in the future?
What mysteries will be solved?
What new questions will arise?
The journey continues.
And we're all along for the ride.